Welcome to 5 Minutes of Management. I'm Rick Bell alongside Frank Kalman.
That's right, Rick. And don't forget, Workforce Live is coming to Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club on March 26th. So, Rick, this week we have a lot going on around the Affordable Care Act, particularly the Supreme Court heard hearings earlier this week in the case King versus Burwell. Rick, what's sort of the focal point of this case, and what does it mean for employers?
Well, for employers, there's really nothing they can do until there's some sort of resolution. And it looks like there's going to be nothing decided, at least this is what the experts are saying, until probably the end of the Supreme Court session, which is in June. So I think you're looking at a wait-and-see situation as to what the court does. Now, it's interesting that our expert, Gary Kushner, who does the Acing the ACA column in the magazine, is even calling it at this point. And he's pretty much in the camp that justices are going to decide for the government, and even to the point where you could see a 7-2 rendering on the verdict. So I think the arguments were valid, but nobody could really make a call. It was like there was no real, oh yeah, they're going to come down this way, they're going to come down that way. But the experts seem to be saying that it's very much in the camp of the government.
That's right. And the issue at stake, from what I've read, seems to be over some language in the law regarding the state exchanges. Is that right?
Yeah, there's like 6 words that were essentially what they were going to be ruling on. And yeah, this is regarding federal subsidies, whereas in 2012, they were talking about the individual mandate, which obviously the Supreme Court came down in favor of. So they were so that Obamacare continued as it was. So now, what, 3 years later, 2 years later, 3 years later, yeah, we're hearing the same thing, and it's, in a sense, it's deja vu all over again. But it looks like it could come down on the side of the government.
Interesting. So on the topic of the ACA, if you've checked out the latest issue of Workforce from Marge, you'll notice on the cover we have a pretty expansive package marking the 5-year anniversary of the law's package. And I know, Rick, you were pretty heavily involved, along with Workforce Associate Editor Sarah Sipek. In putting that package together, you interviewed Kathleen Sebelius, among other key players that have sort of contributed to this discussion regarding the ACA. Can you share a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, boy, I tell you, what we found was that we weren't really looking for the political analysis of it. It was more like, here are people who are dealing with it on a daily basis, and this is what they're dealing with and how they're dealing with it. And I think that's the takeaway, is that all these people, it's like you can have the pundits talking left, right, whatever, but the bottom line is, for business, people have to work on it, and people have to implement it and make sure that their employees understand it as well as their bosses. So I think we got a really nice cross-section of people, not only within business, but even consumers talking about it. So yeah, we're really proud of the package. There's a video component, so you can just flip over, if you're watching this, flip over through some of the videos, and you'll be able to find our interviews with the subjects that we talked to.
So are employers saying the ACA is good or bad, or we'll see?
Resignation, I think, is probably the best word for it, and maybe not even resignation, but it's like, we're dealing with it, and this is how we have to deal with it. And even if the law is overturned, the ACA is still going to exist in some form or fashion for these people, and they're just going to have to figure out what to do, what's the next iteration of it. But yeah, it's basically like, we're dealing with it right now, and this is how we're going to deal with it.
Interesting. Well, if you haven't checked that out, check out our cover story package on the ACA, and be on the lookout for Workforce Live. We're coming to Washington, D.C. on March 26th, New York City on April 8th, and Atlanta on May 6th. Join us next time on 5 Minutes of Management.
Take care.